We'll call our meeting of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors to order. It's about 7:05 on March 1st, 2011. We'll begin with a salute to the flag, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Pullen, can you pull the board, please, or take the roll?
Mr. Sufka, Mrs. Wisłowski, Mr. Harvey.
Here.
Mr. Dix.
Here.
Mr. Swicks.
Here.
Okay, thank you. We'll get right to work here. Item number 1 is an item we've seen before and has gotten a lot of attention from not only the school district, obviously for good reason, but also from several of our boards. It is the preliminary land development plans for Eleanor Roosevelt Elementary School. Mr. Gray?
Yes, as mentioned, this is for Eleanor Roosevelt. This is a preliminary land development located at 185 Walton Drive in Morrisville. Representing the applicant tonight is Mr. Tom Gillette.
My name is Dan Jalboot, and I'm the architect working with the school district, partner in Daly and Jalboot Architects. January 20th, we appeared before the Planning Commission. At that point, we received the preliminary final approval from them. There was 2 items outstanding. One was the sign, which apparently does comply with the ordinance. We weren't sure if we'd need a variance, but it's fine. And there were some trees along one edge of the property, which the civil engineer and the township engineer got together and determined a number of trees that we need to plant, and we're willing to do that, or the district is willing to do that. So that seems the 2 outstanding issues were cleared up.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we have a pretty clean review letter here, which, as you're saying, essentially everything is anything that's in here is a will comply, and you're fine with. We'll go around the horn here. Mr. Snipes, any comments or questions?
No, but I'm wondering, Mr. Chairman, if it would be helpful to just have a brief explanation again of the project. Just,
Okay.
you know, some people may not, especially as residents of the township, are going to be listening to this later. They might enjoy an overview of what the changes to the building will be, how that'll improve the educational facilities, et cetera. But
Okay. No, that makes sense. Mr. Jalbout, do you want to go ahead and do that, or Mr.
Yeah,
Gillette?
I'd be happy to. Which is the best way toward you folks up front?
I think, yeah, I mean, the people behind can see, is that the same basic drawing on the other one, or is that a different drawing? Is it a different one? Okay.
It's the same. Yeah, that's the same.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I think they can kind of follow along then. Thank you.
The yellow on that plan is the existing school. What does not show on that plan are the modular classrooms, which ultimately will be removed, which are on the left-hand side of the building as you look at it. The orange addition is the classroom addition that replaces the modular classrooms with more appropriately sized classrooms. And also in that addition is the library. At the right-hand side of the existing yellow building is the boiler room addition and storage room. In this day and age, with as buildings get built, the energy codes and requirements for HVAC have changed, so the boiler rooms inherently get larger. And then there's a tiny little lobby addition at the front, which will be the main entrance, which faces toward Walton Drive. The site changes are largely to move currently the bus drop is at the rear of the school, and the parent drop is at the front of the school, and the office is in the center of the school. So there's no good, safe security from a school standpoint. So we're moving the office to the front of the building near that little lobby addition facing Walton Drive, and in bringing both the bus and parent drop-off at the same location for security and supervision reasons. That also turns the rest of the site toward the rear of the school back over to the children, and they no longer have to cross parking lots to get to playgrounds and the like. We've linked Midway and Walton Drive, and there's been a traffic study that confirms that that seems to be an okay thing. The school district did, at the Planning Commission meeting, mention that we will monitor how traffic flows around the neighborhood and make any adjustments later after we get to see how things work out, because the hope is with this connection that will help disperse traffic, because currently the only way for traffic to get to the school property when they're parking at the school property is through Midway. That's the only way. So we're hoping this actually disperses and reduces traffic patterns. It seems to be the case with the traffic study, but we offered to wait and see and make any changes that are necessary. So. That's the overview.
Okay. Mr. Stein?
Mr. Chairman, I'd be interested in hearing any comments you could make about energy efficiency in the building and changes. I assume it's an older structure and a lot of updating is needed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. The district has charged us with obtaining a LEED certified project here. We are re-roofing the existing school and, of course, the addition with a very high efficiency insulation and reflective roof system to reduce the heat buildup and heat island effect. All the window systems in the entire school are being replaced with thermally broken low-E insulated windows. The addition is very insulated in the walls. We're changing out all the mechanical systems, new electrical systems. We're sprinklering their entire building. The stormwater management is largely taking place at this the right-hand side of the site, partly to obviously handle all the new impervious, but also to take care of some water issues that were along that property line that the neighbors were concerned about. We have met with the neighbors, and they seem to be content with what we were proposing. But like I said, we're replacing all the finishes, the casework, electric, mechanical, plumbing, roofing systems, windows, lights, you name it, but we've been charged with obtaining a LEED Silver certification, so it'll be a very efficient building.
Is there any...
Oh, yes. Yes, I was coached that there's also photovoltaics.
I was just going to...
all over this. You think as an architect, I would remember those things, but yeah, the entire roof of the new addition has photovoltaic cells on there to create electricity. So.
Great. Glad to be hearing you'll be generating your own power. We all need to be
yeah,
doing more of that.
I wish I'd say we'd be able to sell some back, but my guess is we'll use it all up. So, but that's good.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dents?
I have no questions. I'll have a few comments. I know there was a lot of concern with the traffic loop and so forth from the residents that live on Walton Drive. And as a Eleanor Roosevelt parent, I know firsthand that the traffic situation there now is an absolute nightmare. So it can only get better, I think. There was concern with the connecting road between Walton and Midway. And I've studied these plans, and I've spoken with Miss Aldridge, the school principal, who also had some great ideas to deal with situations, like you said, as they arose, either making it a one-way if needed be, gating it on the weekends, or what have you.
Yeah, we have put in some speed bumps, and as we pointed out when we were talking to the Planning Commission, there's a street right here that goes directly from, connects through to the main road there, and then there's another way here. So you'd almost have to really kind of go out of your way to use this. It may happen. The district has installed, or we have installed 2 speed bumps here, and the district would like to wait and see just so that it doesn't affect how the school district uses the property, but if need be, they've decided on a location, and we plan on a location to put a gate if necessary. So.
Right. Well, until they try it, I guess there's no way to know for sure.
That's the best way.
That's all I had.
Okay. No, I wanted to, one of the issues I had, and I saw that you addressed it in the plans, and I'd spoken to Mr. Sullivan about it, was the drainage issue for the people on Bernard, because that has been something I've heard about, and I remember you met with Mr. Gillette out there, this was last year or something, where we took a look at that. And so I'm glad to hear that was, that's being taken care of, and I've talked to Mr. Sullivan, he's satisfied with your approach to that, because it was a problem there for quite a few people. And I've had a couple of conversations with Mr. Dents, who, as he's just said, is really has a lot more sort of firsthand knowledge, being a parent of a kid who goes there. He knows it more intimately, I think, than anybody else probably here from that perspective, which is important. So I think that was valuable having him here, and he's kind of reassured me about a lot of the traffic issues that some people have had concerns about. And you know, I mean, it's even on your map, you can see it. You don't have to go out there and see. You know, that when you look at, you know, Winding Way and Midway, those are roads that aren't really wide enough to handle a lot of the traffic. Walton Drive is wider. It is the front of the school building. Obviously, for the residents on Walton, they may not be as happy about having that kind of traffic, but we do need to sort of kind of direct the traffic in a way that seems best for the roads that are there. And Midway and Winding Way are both, especially at that point, Winding Way is very, very narrow and shouldn't really be taking all that traffic. But no, I'm very satisfied with what you've put together, and I compliment you on the sort of the completeness of this. If I'm correct, I don't believe there's any waivers you're asking for. Is that correct?
We had quite some time ago been before zoning and we were granted 3 waivers, one of which we won't need, and the others, one was an extra curb cut on Walton, and I don't even recall. I don't even recall what the third one was. I'm not even sure we needed it. So
yeah, I don't believe there are any. So that was, you know, that's a little unusual for us to deal with that. Let's see. I know I have a letter here from the fire marshal's office, which is from November. I'm assuming you've seen that. Yeah,
we have addressed the fire marshal's concern.
Okay.
There, it doesn't appear here, but we put in a road. It's one of those. What's a good term for that, Chris?
Fire lane?
Yeah, it's with grass over it, so you don't see it. But we have that located here so they can get within 150 feet of all areas of the building from a paved surface. And we've located a fire hydrant here at his request, very close to the building connection. So we've accommodated the fire marshal on those 2 requests.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to add one more thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Currently, the buses drop off on the Midway, Winding Way side of the school. Parents and walkers come out the front of the school. And I think the idea behind this whole design was so that everybody used one entrance rather than 2. We mentioned that at the zoning hearing, because right now, the school office is in the middle of the building. So you can enter from the rear and from the front from Walton Drive. I say rear being the Winding Way side.
Correct.
Which for safety's sake isn't a good idea.
Yeah.
So this makes it a much safer approach, because there's only one entrance, one main entrance, and you have to go into the office to get into the building.
Yeah, once the school day starts, they lock down the doors, and this is pretty typical of
Right.
all schools these days. And everyone will be required, there'll be no other way to get into the building but go through the main entrance. And we, even that gets locked down, and they have to go through the office and then exit the office to get back into school.
That's it.
Okay. The only other thing I noticed, just from my personal experience coming through, I think it was in, I forget exactly what document I read it in and what review I read it in, but it was an issue about, maybe it was a traffic planning and design report about the parking lot that's sort of off to the right of the building, which would be a staff parking lot, and making sure the staff knew to park there. And working in a school, that's a very simple thing to account. It's the first day of school. The principal says this is where we're parking, and then there's no more issue with that. So I think they might have recommended signs of some kind, which I don't necessarily think you would need. Sort of too much clutter, I think, really, of signs, and unnecessary. The staff in any school, the staff knows where their parking lots are. They don't necessarily need to have special signs for that. So I don't know if Mr. Sullivan, any questions from you?
Just want to clarify, Mr. Jalbout, you are in receipt of the fire marshal's letter dated February 16th, 2011?
I believe I am, yes.
Yes or no, sir?
I'm trying. Can I take a peek at it?
Sure.
I've got a couple.
That may help. This will help you recall.
It may.
While Mr. Jalbout's reading, Mr. Clark, did you have any issues with this?
No, I believe Mr.
Yeah.
Sullivan's
We're-
about to
yeah,
cover
that's.
what.
Yes, we have all that
Okay,
covered.
you have the TPD letter of January 31st, 2011?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
That I do
and obviously you
remember.
have the T&M review of
Yeah, I
February
do.
8th, and all the issues in those letters will comply at this time?
Yes.
Thank you very
Yep.
much.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Is there any public comment needed? I see one hand. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Mariani?
Quickly, I noted that you're going to use some solar efficiencies in the building, and I think that's good. And I would hope that you would consider geothermal if you haven't. And if you get into any other renovations, you would consider geothermal heating and cooling for its efficiency and its economies, and its environmentally safe. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mariani. That was the only hand I saw. There was a big sort of easel there, so I don't know if there's anybody else who wants to speak. Thank you. No? Any other? Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Gillette. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I do
Yes.
have one other question. As I'm looking at what I think of as the front of the school, which will become the back of the school, looking at the parking area, which is going to become part of the playground or the asphalt, they're going to leave the asphalt and have that be a play area. Then I'm looking at kind of a green area between the new paved parking, the new paved play area and the exterior wall of the building. I guess my basic question is some of the existing parking lot going away and there's more green space, or I'm just trying to picture? Right now, I think of the parking lot as running up pretty much to a sidewalk and then a paved outdoor play area. Here it looks like maybe that paved outdoor play area,
Yeah.
the old one, goes away.
This area is the existing parking lot.
Right.
Currently, there is paving here, which is kind of a raised play area
Yes.
that's just outside of a. We're eliminating that and making that
Okay.
grass to absorb water. This area is grass, so essentially we're recovering so that we aren't increasing the impervious. But what it does is allow students to go to play areas without crossing a parking lot. So.
And then I guess the drive around the circle, which now exists, that's disappearing as well.
Right, the circular.
And there's a new driveway coming in.
Yeah, the existing
behind-
bus drop is under here, so we have to get this established
Right.
before we demolish this, and
Right.
in turn, before they can start that.
Okay.
Tricky phasing. But
So there's not a reduction in impervious surface with the whole project, right? It maintains pretty much the same with the modulars, I guess. I don't know.
Chris Cobalt, Town Engineering. Actually, we have about an acre of impervious added, but what we did try to do was salvage a lot of the existing paving. We're not changing the grade. The darker color paving that you see there, that is added. The light gray is what we are salvaging
Right.
for the project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Any further comments or questions? No. Okay. Oh,
Chris Coble again, and I apologize for this. We actually had a wonderful experience with T&M moving through. They were wonderful to work with. We've had a lot of trouble sometimes working with other engineering firms. They really delay the process. And as much as that is, as fast as we have gone, I may have missed something, a waiver request for a preliminary final development reading. So I know that we may have left it off of the plans, but I believe we have been running in a vacuum, kind of intending with a preliminary final.
Right.
If that is a waiver request that you can consider tonight.
all right. Yeah, that was a question.
Appreciate it.
Because I was about to ask, actually, Mr. Jalbu, because I heard you say that you had gotten preliminary final from Planning Commission, and what we have here is just listed as preliminary. Mr.
Well,
Clark?
the resolution is written as preliminary and final, and I believe in, just discussing this with Mr. Sullivan, there are no substantive changes that are going to be made to the plans. There'll be some minor technical changes that will be made consistent with Mr. Sullivan's review letter, but there'll be no substantive changes. So even if you were only to grant preliminary this evening, when they come back, they wouldn't be presenting anything more than what they presented this evening. So it would appear that preliminary and final is appropriate in this
Okay.
instance.
Mr. Sullivan, you would agree with that?
I do agree with that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Board members have any trouble with preliminary and final for this?
No.
No.
No, as I said, it's a very clean plan. I appreciate the work you put into it and the compliment to T&M. So we think they do a pretty good job, so we're glad to hear other people say that too.
Fired or
So, all right, if no other comments or questions, is there a motion? Well, this would be Resolution 11-08, which would be preliminary and final land development for Eleanor Roosevelt Elementary School.
I'll make the motion to approve Resolution 1108 for preliminary and final land development to the Pennsbury School District for the Eleanor Roosevelt Elementary School addition and renovations.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Luck.
I'm here and out there.
Breakers.
You got this, right?
Okay, next item on our agenda. Actually, next three items are all dealing with Park and Recreation. I see Mr. Reese is here. Yeah.
Mr. Gillette, do you want the drawings back? We're not going to need them.
Do you need them or no? You don't.
Rather than
Somebody
print
might
new
wanna
ones,
look at
somebody
them.
might be able to use them.
Yeah, here. You can take this one too. I guess. Thank you too.
Sorry.
Yeah, you brought your big vehicle. I hope.
Good night.
Item number 2 is to consider awarding the bid for the chlorine and muriatic acid for the 2011 Pinewood pool season. Mr. Gray.
Sealed bids were recently opened for chlorine and muriatic acid for the Pinewood Pool for the 2011 season. Only one full bid was received. The company was Barradelli Pool Service. The quote was $2.45 a gallon for chlorine, plus a $2 compliance charge for delivery. Muriatic acid was $29.99 per gallon for muriatic acid, plus a $2 compliance charge also per delivery. The chlorine cost is the same as the prior year. Muriatic acid is $1.46 per gallon less than the prior year. At this time, the board is asked to consider Barradelli Pool Service for chlorine and muriatic acid services for 2011 at the Pinewood Pool. In addition, as mentioned, Mr. Reese is here in case there's any additional questions.
Okay. Let's see. All right. The comments or questions from board members. We have a memo here from Mr. Reese stating that this is a service we've worked with before, Barradelli, and he's very satisfied with their performance. As Mr. Gray's pointed out, the price for these two chemicals is either the same as last year or actually lower than last year, which is always good news. Comments or questions regarding this?
No.
If not, is there a motion to accept the bids as presented?
So moved.
Oh, excuse me. Well, good. We'll make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Motion made and seconded. Is there any public comment needed? I see no hands. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. Next would be consider approval of 2011 Goose Management Agreement for the Falls Township Community Park. Mr. Gray?
A proposal from S&S Professional Wildlife Control Services for Canada Goose Management at the Falls Township Community Park for 2011 has been secured. This proposal includes permits with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. In prior years, the township has completed the egg addling program. Total cost of the egg addling and the permits is $5,225, which was also the same price as the prior year. At this time, the board is asked to consider the proposal from S&S Wildlife. Also, in addition, Mr. Rick Shadle from S&S Wildlife and Bill Reese are also here to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay. Mr. Reese, and I guess maybe Mr. Shadle, if he wants to come up, just give us an idea again what exactly this program includes. I know we do this every year. I think occasionally we do something slightly different, but
Evening, gentlemen.
make sure you're using the microphone, sir.
Okay, sorry
That's all.
about that.
That's okay.
Same as basically it's been the last several years. It's maintenance at this point. We are finding nests, addressing those nests and the eggs there so that we don't get goslings hatched, and doing that, providing a cleaner park. So we do this work coupled with the employees of the township that also do some hazing and various things. So.
Right. Yeah, well, I know we've had our public works people down are doing some other, things in addition to that. We have little obstacles out there, I guess, little things, right, all kinds of little things, little tricks we try and get that we've copied from some other places around the county. It seems to work. And but Mr. Reese, in terms of what we're doing here, what's been your experience in terms of how successful it's been?
Well, I think it's been overall very successful. I think with the influx of seagulls, I don't know if it looks like we have less geese than we have because we got so many seagulls or not, but I think over the years it definitely has gone down. It's just that we had so many in the beginning. A lot of people might get down there and might see 100 birds down there in the course of a week or whatever. Mm-hmm. During certain times of the years, there's less than others, just depending on the weather, depending on the time of year, that type of thing. Okay. But I think overall, yeah, it's definitely been a plus.
Okay. Comments or questions from board members, Mr. Reese or Mr. Shadle?
No. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The egg addling program, do you have from your experience, a percentage of the number of eggs that don't hatch, or
maybe Rick can answer that.
I don't know whether it's just at our park or in general when this kind of program is done, what's the hatch rate, and so how do you calculate the reduction in population over time? Or
Sure. Well, the hatch rate for the nests we find is 0. Okay, there is nothing that hatches. Everything is addressed the way it has to be. And the past 3 years, we're confident that we found every nest on site. That has required us to beat many bushes and go deeper into areas that we didn't typically have to do. We have some resident geese that I'm sure it's the same birds. They know the pressure's on and they just become a little harder to find, but we know where to look for them, and there's not so many places anymore that we don't look. That's not to say that we don't get walk-in birds, what we call walk-ins from adjacent watering holes. Across several of the streets, there's other big bodies of water, and we get birds that walk in from off-site. Those birds we can't do anything about other than chase them back where they came from. But we have seen a reduction in adult birds at the site. And of course, the critical use time for the park is June and July and August. And the last thing you want to do is have young geese that are growing at an exponential rate, and they eat 4 pounds and they return 2 pounds of, as we describe, green Tootsie Rolls. So it makes quite a mess. So that has been reduced dramatically. So we've been very happy with the results. Goose management is like mowing grass. If you don't do it, you're going to see it, and folks will fuss. When you're getting the job done, most folks aren't saying anything. They will if they start stepping in the stuff again.
Right.
That answers your question.
Okay.
So we would say that in the past couple of years, we have not actually seen any goslings on the property at all.
Last year, we didn't see any, not even walk-ins. Now, we're not there, 24/7. Bill may have a different picture, but we did not see any. So we were, thrilled, and we saw the adult goose population was down dramatically last year. So that has to do with hazing and those types of efforts. And there can be some other things in play as well. There may be activity on some other sites unrelated to us that is actually helping Falls Township at that park as well. So.
Okay. All right. Jens, any comments or questions?
No questions or comments.
Public comment needed? See one hand. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Mr. Mariani?
I'm familiar with the addling, but most of these things work better when you have different combinations. I am in favor, really, aside from the addling, of using some chemicals that are really safe. And one of them is Rejexit. You might have heard that, or this gentleman might be familiar with that. It's an irritant. What it does is irritates the mouth of the geese and their stomach, and you don't require a federal permit to use this. It's got a really great odor to it. The second one, which is the one that I really like, is Flight Control Plus, and that's a lawn treatment, and it's safe for humans, it's safe for pets, it's safe for the wildlife that we might have out there. And what it does is it gives the geese a really bad bellyache, and they soon learn to avoid that particular area. What I specifically like about this Flight Control Plus is that the properties absorb ultraviolet rays, and what happens is when the geese are flying into that area, they see this and they begin to avoid it, and after 1 or 2 feedings, you probably get rid of them permanently. I'd like you to consider the chemical approach to this. Addling is fine, but you can also do addling, I guess, without using the corn oil. You can just take the egg and shake it violently, and that does the same thing. But I think this will probably have a more permanent approach. You want to get rid of these guys if you possibly can. There also resident geese have been found, some of them have been found to be positive with the West Nile virus now, and that's a pretty dangerous thing. You don't want these beasts in and around our parks, I don't think.
Right.
Thank you, Ed. Please consider that.
Sure. No, I think it's obviously the proposal we have before us doesn't necessarily deal with the chemicals, but certainly Mr. Reese and Mr. Shado can discuss those options, and if that looks like something we might want to do, Mr. Reese can come back to us. Yeah, right. Okay, thank you. Mr. Alexis?
This is for the gentleman with that outfit. Last year, you had a pretty good year getting rid of them, I'd say. I counted 8 new ones. The year before, do you go, by the way, do you go over there and check this out periodically, or once you get your job done, you're gone?
Mr. Shado, if you don't mind, Mr. Shado, could you use the microphone, please? Sorry.
We work through a stated period of time, which is during nesting season. So once nesting season's over, our contract ends.
Because I was over there, not last year, the year before. I'm over there every day. I counted 33 new ones. I talked to the security guard, he said he counted 36. Is that a good job, would you say?
I would
For
say,
the money you're getting?
Sure, I would say it is a good job, considering you may have had 76 new geese, but I'm not confident that those geese were born on the property. I can't do anything about the geese that walk in, and I've not been hired to haze geese. So my job is to find nests and destroy eggs. That's all I'm hired to do. So,
Mr. Mariani has a good idea, maybe we ought to get into that.
well,
There's millions of them over there now.
I'm happy to speak to it. Well, right now you get migratory birds going through, and they're soon going to leave. This is the Atlantic Flyway, and this is where all the birds are heading north right now. The products that he mentioned have some efficacy, but it's a little bit overstated as to their efficacy. They're expensive products. Flight Control is $280 a gallon, and 1 gallon covers an acre. After 2 mowings, it's gone. Canada geese are cows with wings, and they're not so easily dissuaded, is the best I can tell you. I use the products. I use them for parking islands where it's cost-effective to use them. On a field like that, I wouldn't even advise it. If you have any skippers, yes, there's an ultraviolet signature. They're going to eat right over top of it and eat the skippers. So, and I know geese that have eaten right through the product.
I have no idea.
So, this is, those are good products, but don't be fooled by what you read on them. They're overstated, so.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Shadle, just a point of clarification, the 3 of us up here wondering what a skipper is.
Okay, sorry. Well, when you're spraying the grass, if you leave a line of untreated grass, yes, everything else lights up, and that doesn't, and they'll eat that.
All right.
And pass on the rest of it.
I got you. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Any other comment? See no hands. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. So we have the presentation from Mr. Reese, and also had some discussion, Mr. Shadle, and some public comment. The total cost for this program for this year would be $5,225, which, as is stated in the memo from Mr. Gray, is the same as the amount last year. Is there a motion at this time?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the 2011 Goose Management Agreement for the Falls Township Community Park in the with the total of $5,225 to S&S Professional Wildlife Control Services.
Second the motion?
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, third item here. Mr. Reese is up again. This is a relatively brief one with the summer camp school buses. Mr. Gray?
Yes, the board authorized advertisement for bids for the summer camp school buses. Bids were due by Wednesday, December 23rd. Unfortunately, no bids were received. At this time, the board is asked to consider reauthorizing advertisement for the summer camp school buses for trips for the year 2011.
Okay. And I believe this happened last year as well, didn't it, Mr. Reese?
Yes. I feel very confident, though, that we'll get a bid next time.
Okay. All right.
So
and just to
or
review,
maybe more than one, yeah.
Okay. And just for people that maybe missed the original presentation, why do we need buses for our summer camp?
Our summer camp program, it's a 6-week program in the summer. This year it's going to be at Manor Elementary School. We take bus trips once a week during the second, third, and fourth week of the program. We also go swimming once a week at Pinewood Pool, which we have to bus the kids to the pool. So that's the reason why we need buses.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Any comments or questions from board members?
No.
No. Okay. I don't imagine any public comment. This is reauthorization to advertise here. Is there a motion then to reauthorize advertisement for the bus service?
So moved.
Second?
All right. Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. Okay. Item number 5 is consider authorizing advertisement of Code Amendment to Chapter 51, Section 6. This involves the powers and duties of the Township Manager. Mr. Gray, why are we giving you more power?
Chapter 51, Section 6 of the Falls Township Code discusses the Township Manager's powers and duties. Subsection 17 states the Township Manager may declare a local disaster emergency subject to ratification by the Board of Supervisors within 7 days of the declaration of the emergency. With the amendment, the wording would change to ratification by the Board of Supervisors at the next regularly scheduled Board of Supervisors meeting. The board is asked to consider authorizing advertisement for this ordinance change.
Okay. And over the past couple of years, of course, with the snowfall we've had, Mr. Gray has on several occasions over the past 2 years had to declare states of emergency, which gives our police and our snowplows a bit more authority in terms of clearing the streets so that they can be plowed. As he said, under the existing code, that decision is supposed to be ratified by this board within 7 days. Well, hasn't been too much of an issue because we've had so many big snowfalls that we pretty much have a meeting sometime within a recent snowfall. But just in case, it would make more sense to just say it'll be ratified at the next Board of Supervisors meeting, whether it's 7 days or 5 days or 14 or whatever it is. So that essentially is the reason behind this. And this is just authorizing advertisement of this ordinance. It has to be advertised for a set period, and then we can look to adopt it after that period. Comments or questions from board members? No? Okay.
Nope.
Since we'll be coming back to this issue to possibly adopt it in the future, not a lot of reason. It's very simple anyway. I don't imagine there's any public comment needed. I see no hands. Is there a motion to authorize advertisement of this amendment to Chapter 51, Section 6?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
All right, motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Item 6, consider hiring of a new police officer, James McCaffrey. Mr. Gray.
Presently, the police department has a vacant position for a police officer. The police department would like to fill the position with James McCaffrey, who is also a former police officer with our township. The board is asked to consider this hire for the police department. A resolution has been prepared for the board's consideration as well.
Okay. As Mr. Gray said, Officer McCaffrey, was a Falls Township police officer for some time, left for personal reasons, and has been serving as a police officer in Warminster for quite some time. And an opening has occurred here in the township with an officer leaving the department of his own decision. And so with that opening, Officer McCaffrey has expressed an interest in coming back. So Is there any comment, or are there any comments or questions from board members? Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
None.
No, and I have none. Any public comment needed? See no hands. Okay.
One.
Oh, I'm sorry, where? Okay, motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Rother? You have to, I'm sorry, so you have to use microphone.
Resident of Vermilion Hills, Falls Township. I'm against rehiring that officer for one reason. He left here of his own accord. He went other places. Now we have people that are coming out of academies or whatever that are trained and looking for jobs. Why not give them a shot at it? Why take the first guy that's been here before, was someplace else? Let's get somebody new,
Okay.
a younger one.
Okay. All right. All right. Any other public comment needed? See no hands. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Officer McCaffrey is relatively young. I'm not sure his exact age. It's unimportant anyway. But the reasons why he left didn't have anything to do with Falls Township, and the board is privy. Personnel issue, we're not necessarily going to go into his personnel, but we know the reasons why he left, and the reasons were very good, and the board doesn't really have any issue with why he left. And he has a lot of experience as an officer and has a very good reputation, and so we're glad to have him back, I think, as is the police department. And the recommendations we follow are the recommendations of the chief of police, as well as the committee of police officers who do look at hiring. So we'll be proud to go off of their recommendations. But I understand the concern. Okay, we've had some public comment, and also the board has had their chance to comment. Is there a motion that this will be Resolution 09?
None.
Okay, 1109. Is there a motion then to accept or adopt Resolution 1109?
I'll make the motion to adopt Resolution 1109.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Okay. Consider approval of item 7. Consider approval of a township's tenant lease at Dynamatrix. Okay. Mr. Gray?
Yes. A lease agreement for one of the township's tenants, Dynamatrix, has been prepared. This lease agreement is a one-year agreement commencing January 1st, 2011, and ending December 31st, 2011. Rent for this office is based on $15.71 per foot. The board is requested to consider approval of this lease agreement with Dynamatrix.
Okay. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Snipes?
No.
Mr. Dents?
None.
And I have none. This is pretty much just a standard lease we do with all the tenants here?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any public comment needed? I see no hands. All right, is there a motion then to approve the tenant lease for Dynamatrix, the amount of $15.71 per square foot?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're looking at public comment. I see Mr. Gray is retrieving the list for us. Remind our residents the policy of the board, which is 5 minutes per speaker. Okay, first name on the list is Roland Kenny.
Roland Kenny, Falls Township. Just like to thank everybody that signed the petitions I had for Jan Slosky to get her on both ballots. We got plenty. So she wants to thank everybody. And I'd just like to remind people on the 13th of this month, Penn Manor's open to the public free, but you have to go up through Tullytown and get there. Third, young lady I like very much on Pennsylvania Avenue. Her husband came up the day we were taking down the trees. called me a liar, a sneak, and I think I run this township. I just want to answer them that I'm never going to say another thing about these stupid trees. I'll show you some pictures of them, what's happening down there. But if I was a sneak, I would have taken them down on Saturday and Sunday. As far as me running this town, if I may, Mr. Chairman, may I ask the manager a question?
Yes.
Mr. Gray, I can remember only once I asked you for something. It was for if you could let us have the street sweeper in our development to clean the street once a year. Remember me asking you that?
I believe we may have had a discussion about it.
And your answer was?
I don't recall the
It was no. Then I met Mr. Harvey before he got in here once outside, and I was to the Shade Tree Commission. I was asking them for trees because 2 or 3 of our Christmas trees get stolen every year. They cut them right down, take them away. And I asked, if you can remember, Mr. Harvey, I asked you, could I get a few trees? And your answer, I like your answer the way you answered it out there.
I think there are children watching, so I can't answer it the way I wanted to.
No, you didn't say nothing bad.
Okay. I believe I said no.
Yeah, you
I
said
don't know if
no.
I added anything to it. Okay. All right.
And I said, that's fine.
All right.
And I never asked nothing of the township. These, if I may approach.
Sure. Yeah. You don't need these back?
No.
Okay. All right.
But this is the first 2 pictures of a limb that come down. Now, I try to pick that limb up. I consider myself very strong, even with my broken back I did around 8 months ago. But that weighs around 400 or 500 pounds, that limb.
Mm-hmm.
And that's right near our railing. And people walk their dogs along there and everything. If that would have come down when one was walking around, there'd be no mercy for them. Oh, I can give you this too.
Okay.
Oh, you might have the last picture in there might be. I know Mr. Dents would like to see it. That's all I have to say. Have a nice night.
Okay.
God bless you.
All right. Thank you. Tom Kenner.
Good evening.
Mr. Kenner.
Tom Kenner, Falls Township. I live in Thornridge, across from the good old water tower. Now, I have metal debris on my property,
Okay.
powder. How safe is my property? For my grandchildren to go out in the yard and play in this, is it safe? I had bronchitis for 2 months over this water tower. I'm glad I'm feeling better. But anyway, it's going to be getting nice weather. I'd like my grandchildren to go out in the yard. How safe is it going to be for them? When's it going to be cleaned up? When's the tower going to be finished taken down? You have any answers?
But yeah, I wanted to let you get sort of all the questions out. And what we'll do is
okay.
we'll turn over to Mr. Clark. I know the short of it is that we've been waiting for Lower Brooks Joint to sort of give us some answers, and we're still waiting. Mr. Clark, do you want to go into a little bit more detail?
Yes, Mr. Harvey. We are waiting for Lower Bucks Joint Municipal Authority to provide us with certain information. We are also waiting for them to provide us with a plan for the dismantling of the rest of the tank, and we're also waiting for them to provide us with a plan for the cleanup of the surrounding properties. To date, we have received certain documents from Lower Bucks Joint, but not documents sufficient to satisfy our engineer, and we have not received a plan for the dismantling of the tank or for the remediation of the surrounding properties. With respect to the debris and with respect to whether or not it's safe, and Mr. Sullivan can speak to this a little bit more than I can, but all indications are from the preliminary documents that we have and from the preliminary information that we have that nothing on the tank is toxic, nothing on the tank is a health concern or a health hazard. But we're still waiting some additional information. But the preliminary indications are that there's nothing toxic coming off of that tank and nothing that would constitute a health hazard.
Okay. Mr. Sullivan, add anything to add?
Nothing to add. That what Mr. Clark says is correct.
Okay. Okay. I know there was some confusion. I had discussions over the weekend, actually, with some people from Lower Bucks Joint, from board members, who were under the belief that information from their attorney had come to us, and that we were essentially sort of not doing anything with it. And it turned out that their attorney had made a mistake and not sent the material to us. He was supposed to send it yesterday, and it did not get sent to us. Mr. Clark, had we received it as of tonight?
As of 5 o'clock today, my office had not received the information that was promised to us on Friday, that we were going to receive it on Monday morning.
Yeah. So, obviously, I understand your frustration, and I mean, hopefully, at least what you're hearing from us in terms of we have all the evidence we have shows that the material that's related to the tank is not toxic. Now, in terms of the cleanup, I mean, I understand your concerns, and with the weather getting nicer.
Right.
The tower is Lower Bucks Joint's tower. And
heard that from the start.
I know, and there's nothing we have really no authority to take it down. Mr. Clark, Mr. Sullivan, in your opinion regarding the tower, the condition it's in now, is there any danger of it falling? Is it structurally unsound?
No, there's no danger of it falling. It is structurally stable in its current state.
Okay. All right.
So when it's going to be continued to take down, when it's going to be taken down, is it going to be covered to be taken down like it should have been done in the very beginning?
That is one of the things that, as you're hearing Mr. Clark say, we're waiting for them to give us their plan for taking it down, and we're waiting for that. And Mr. Sullivan, who's the engineer, has to be satisfied that it's going to be done in a safe manner. So yes, we're going to try and make it as safe as we can possibly get them to make it.
So you're saying that nothing is toxic coming off of there. But what about breathing metal dust running through the yard? I mean, you can see it glistening,
right?
Even with the wet ground, after the snow is melted, you can see it glistening on the surface of the ground. So how good of a cleanup is this going to be with the metal off my property? I mean, I want to guarantee that the value of my property is not going to go down because of this tower debris. And I want to, certainly my first issue is health issues.
Right.
I want my grandchildren to be able to run around the yard safely.
Right.
I don't want them to get sick. As for your children, you certainly wouldn't want the same thing either.
Right.
So this was my main concern. Now, what are we talking, the end of summer by the time this is going to be finished?
Well, I know I was having a discussion earlier with Mr. Clark in terms of exactly how long we wait. Our patience is running out. Obviously, you have much more reason to have shorter patience, and I understand that completely. But our patience is just about out with them. We've given them a good amount of time, and now a little bit of a song and dance, whether it is a genuine mistake or it is a song and dance, you'll get it on Friday, you'll get it on Monday, you'll get it on Tuesday, and we still don't have it. Mr. Clark, in terms of steps we can take legally regarding cleanup or with the tower itself, where do we stand?
First of all, we have an open court case in Doylestown with the Bucks County Court of Common Pleas. After the initial hearing and a follow-up conference, the matter was stayed while the two parties attempted to resolve this matter. We had been working with Lower Bucks Joint. There had been promises that they would forward us the information that we needed. So in the very near future, we will, if we do not get what we need from Lower Bucks Joint, we can go back in, because it is an open case. There is a judge assigned, and we can then move to attempt to get the judge to force Lower Bucks Joint to turn over the documents, and if they don't come up with a plan for taking down the rest of the tower, and if they don't come up with a plan for remediating the site, then we may ask the court to do it. Obviously, at that point in time, we would have to come up with our own plan, and that would fall on Mr. Sullivan to develop it if Lower Bucks Joint is not going to develop it. With respect to the issue of whether or not it's going to be covered, since all indications are that there is nothing toxic or hazardous on this tank, the tank will not necessarily be completely covered when they're continuing to take it down. But obviously, there is a need for tarps, and there is a need for other steps to contain any of the debris or any of the dust that is coming. And the last question that was raised by Mr. Kenner, or the last issue, if he believes that his property has been devalued in any way, or if he believes that there has been any damage to his property, or he or any family member have suffered any physical effects because of this, then obviously that is something that they need to pursue with Lower Bucks Joint. They need to possibly make a claim against Lower Bucks Joint. One of the things that was clear when we went to court is that the judge, while he will entertain issues regarding the taking down of the tank and the cleaning up of the site, any claim for damages will not be handled in this context because we are not a party to damages that may have been suffered by residents. So if anyone believes their property's been damaged or they've been damaged, that is something that they need to address with Lower Bucks Joint and Lower Bucks Joint's insurance company.
All right. So I think, Mr. Kenner, I guess if your concern, I understand, is the immediate cleanup of your property, because as you said, weather's getting nicer. Going off from what Mr. Clark is saying, is we can't necessarily, sue Lower Bucks Joint on your behalf. That we don't have the standing. You obviously could do that. You could file a claim with your homeowner's insurance, and then they would then go after Lower Bucks Joint to pay that. That's kind of the quicker way to do it. Our powers sort of are limited in what we can go after them for. But that's kind of where we stand right now. And then talking to Mr. Dents and Mr. Snipes too, and I wanted to do this while you're standing there. In terms of how much time we wait, do we want to say by our next meeting we want this issue pretty well resolved, or we're going to direct Mr. Clark to go back to the Court of Common Pleas and take the next step against Lower Bucks Joint?
Well, I'd be interested in moving pretty quickly. But beyond that, I'm concerned about what Mr. Kenner is saying about the dust that he sees on his property. Obviously, even if it's not toxic in the effect that it's lead or something,
it's still metallic.
It's still, you don't want to be breathing, and you don't want your grandchildren, you don't want your grandkids playing in it.
That's my concern.
So seeing as you're saying that our authority is kind of limited here, what kind of advice or help can we give so that, is he able to clean it and then go after them to be reimbursed, or where would he even know how to find who cleans it in the appropriate way? I just don't know the answer to those questions.
And I'm not sure.
Well, we are hoping that Lower Bucks Joint was going to clean it up, and when we had our initial conference in front of the judge, there were certain promises that were made about the speed with which they were going to move on this. Clearly, we didn't want the residents to have to spend their own money cleaning up the property, for lack of a better phrase, for cleaning up the mess that was made by Lower Bucks Joint. When we began this process, we were under the impression that Lower Bucks Joint was going to move a lot more quickly than they have. And as Mr. Harvey referenced, I received a phone call from Mr. Harvey on Saturday. He had heard from somebody that they had sent documents to my office weeks ago and that we weren't doing anything on it. We've never received those documents, the NSDS sheets, the
Material Safety Data Sheets.
Thank you. They were supposedly sent to my office weeks ago. They've never been sent to my office. It is unfortunate that what started out being a cooperative effort between the Township and Lower Bucks Joint is starting to look like feet dragging on behalf of Lower Bucks Joint. If the Township wishes for us to press this more in court, we can do that. You're talking about by your next meeting, Mr. Harvey, which is in 2 weeks. I would imagine that if we contacted the judge tomorrow, we could probably be back in front of him before our next meeting. If we may not get in there tomorrow, we may not get in there by the end of the week, but I'm assuming we can get back in front before our next meeting.
Okay. So we do want to, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if you're standing there, do you have any other issues right now? We're obviously going to discuss this. I see Mr. Major is also on the list here to speak, and so I'm assuming obviously
this is like a vicious circle. Mm-hmm. The township is blaming the municipal authority. They're blaming the demolition. The demolition is blaming the township. And that is for the reason they're blaming you. Is the gentleman I spoke to, he said you never told him that he had to have a permit to have this covered. And if that had been the case, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have been at the last meeting.
Well, the issue kind of comes down to, and you're right, obviously everybody's going to be pointing the other way at the other guy. It's always
Right.
everybody else's fault. The fact of the matter is when Lower Bucks Joint and this company filed their permits to take down the tower, they stated they would be doing it in sort of the safest way possible, which we trusted them a little bit to do that, which maybe was our fault for trusting them. So I guess if we want to, we'll take the blame for trusting them, maybe.
Well, the Lower Bucks, I mean, the municipal authority, they took the lowest bid.
Right.
Now, the demolition guy, he told me to cover that would have cost a lot more thousands of dollars to cover that.
Sure.
And that would have been the safe and most efficient
Right.
way to do it.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't have been any problems. But what's done is done. Now my concern is the health problems and the value of my property.
Okay, I understand.
Okay?
Okay.
So
And-
now you're telling me basically I have to go after Lower Bucks Municipal.
Well,
As far as the cleanup.
I
and
would,
that's-
I mean, judging just from the way things have gone, I don't know if I would wait around for them to clean it up. As Mr. Clark's already said, we were expecting them to move a little faster than they did, and obviously they were not moving very fast.
But we still are pressing for the cleanup of the property.
Right.
That is still one of the things that we are seeking for them to do, is to clean up the property of the residents who are in the closest proximity to the tower. What I'm referring to is if you feel that there's been some damage to your property, if something to the structure or anything on the property, or if there's been any health issues, that is something that the township cannot handle. And Mr. Harvey, if I could just comment on one other thing. I understand what Mr. Kenner is saying about people pointing fingers, and while there may be some culpable parties here, the township is not culpable. When we issued the demolition permit here, Mr. Bennett issued it consistent with our rules and regulations. The fact that they went out and started taking down this tank in a way that really is outside of the normal way that these things are done, in a way that was a little bit shocking to Mr. Sullivan and to others when they went down and saw the way they were taking down this tank. Whether it was the lowest bid or it wasn't the lowest bid, the fact that this contractor is pointing fingers at the township for the slipshod way that he was doing work is really somewhat comical, because the township did what it was supposed to do under the ordinance. If Lower Bucks Joint did what they were supposed to do, and if the contractor had proceeded in a workmanlike, professional manner, we wouldn't be in this problem right now.
Okay, all right, okay.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to, thank you, Mr. Kenner, I appreciate it, and we are still working on.
Hopefully it's going to be taken down before the end of summer. Now,
Yeah.
if, like this gentleman over here says, he may not be covered all the way, and there may be some tarps. So they can't clean it up now until the project is completed. And if the project is going to linger to the end of summer, you can't have two cleanups. You can't have a cleanup now and a cleanup when they decide to finish the project.
Well, why not? I mean, the way I feel is
Well,
that
hey,
they
that
should be
would be fine
obligated to
with
clean
me.
your property right now.
That would,
I mean, that's-
hey, you know what? I appreciate that.
But I don't know how we make that happen
Well,
besides.
the way we make it happen is we give them till the end of the week to turn over documents and plans, and if they don't have it by Friday, then Mr. Clark goes to come and please on Monday, and takes the next step. That would be my feeling.
Mr. Snipes, I appreciate that, because get the yard cleaned up now, it'd be safe at least for the summertime.
Sure.
If they're not going to take it down to the fall, or when, who knows when they're going to end up taking it down, then they'll have to clean it the second time if they're not going to cover it with a tarp.
Well, then let's just not wait any longer and let's move forward now. I mean, if they've been promising documents weeks ago that it never showed up, and even Monday told you that they would be here by the afternoon Monday, and here it is Tuesday night and they're still not here.
Well, I mean, it's the direction board. I do see Mr. Major's on here too, and I know he's going to talk about the same issue. So
Yeah,
I'll
he
ask
is.
Mr. Major to come up.
Okay.
If you'd like.
I
Sure.
wonder if Mr. Kenner could also, I just think we owe him the courtesy of being in contact with him. So if we could get his phone number maybe to Mr. Gray, just to
good.
be in contact with you so you know that things are proceeding.
I appreciate that very much.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Major? Well, you know what? If with Mr. McAloon's permission, I'll just move to you since it's the same issue.
This is courtesy of the water tower. I've shed some more light for you too, as far as the chemicals and so forth, so I do have some stuff for you. So I you know, took a little bit of time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're the attorney? Who's the attorney?
Mr. Clark here.
Okay, I'll try not to be too long. Sorry. I think the first page is something that I received from OSHA. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, right now, OSHA is the only agency that did the right job. They went out. They viewed all the action that was going on at this tower. They fined the company, stopped them at particular times. I still have not gotten the second report though from OSHA. They're dragging their feet on that a little bit. I hope to have that. They did an analysis of the tower. They actually took a piece of the tower, took it, and there's very, very thorough analysis that they had to do for that, because some of the chemicals that I've found through information that Lower Bucks Joint Municipal Authority did provide to me indicates that there was cadmium on the tower, which is toxic. Okay, so what they're telling you is telling the the township solicitor that there's no toxic material on there is in my personal opinion, is a fabricated lie. They have not provided everything to me. They have given me basically what they thought that I should see, but investigating it a little bit more, and I've spent a lot of hours doing this, also a lot of hours being sick. I saw a toxicologist on Thursday down at the University of Penn on recommendation from my gastrointestinal doctor, because of the severe pain that I was in. And I think at the last meeting I told you that I had some tests done. Speaking with this toxicologist, who's a specialist in occupational emergency medicine. That's what she does for a living. She only sees people that have been exposed to environmental or hazardous substance. She told me, I don't have anything in writing for you, but she told me that it appears that I was exposed to some sort of hazardous material. Couldn't say whether it was toxic or not. I took her the material. She looked at it. She says, I don't have to analyze this. I know what's in the tower. Cadmium came up on the list. She says when you heat cadmium, it becomes cadmium oxide, which is even more toxic. She said the zinc wasn't as much, but I'm being tested for the zinc. I'm being tested for the lead. But these blood tests that I've had through my regular physician were just, it wasn't the right way to do it. There's only 2 labs in the country that test for these particular materials in your blood and a special urine that had been sent out yesterday. I took those tests yesterday, and they went out to Pittsburgh, which is happened to be one of the labs. I won't have that back until the end of the week. Hopefully that comes back good. Doesn't mean that there is. I'm not saying that there's something in me or there's something not. The dust, and I'm going to talk about the metal dust that Tom Kenner had talked about. The metal dust is everywhere. And I talked about this at the last board meeting, or maybe even the first one. I took a magnet and rolled it across certain areas. DEP was at my house yesterday. They viewed it. Unfortunately, they don't want to admit anything because they didn't see it leave the site. Okay. whether that's negligence on their part, I don't want to get into that, but clearly this tower company came back on the 3rd and the 4th, and DEP wasn't present to view this. So basically, and I have, I didn't give you the reports that I got from DEP. I'm only contacting DEP, or was in contact with DEP through through McElhaney's office, Senator McElhaney's office. They contacted me as well. They're concerned. Surely we want to see the tower taken down. So I know I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit. The information that Lower Bucks Joint Municipal Authority has given you or has not given you, I probably do have some. And yes, they are dragging their feet on this. I actually caught them sneaking into my backyard last week to tell me that my shed was on their water easement. I'm like, okay, so why don't you clean up the metal? Well, he didn't even want to give me his name at that point. So, we know that a lot of stuff they did wrong. In the documents from DEP, which I have, I don't think I'm allowed to give you copies of, they were notified on December 7th, that they weren't in compliance. They didn't apply for a permit. And I believe I was telling you guys that you guys didn't. It was the wrong permitting through here. Last several days, I got all the documentation. DEP told them to stop. They went back out. When they were on site, there was nobody on site at the 7th, but this investigator went to Lower Bucks County Joint Municipal Authority and told them that you don't have the right permitting. Okay, I have that documentation. If you want copies of it, I can give it to you, but I don't want to discuss it in public. The inspector went back out to the site on the 9th and told them that they were not in compliance they didn't have the proper permitting, but they were also told that on the 7th, that if they willfully conducted more demolition, that they were doing this against all regulations of DEP. So clearly, the demolition company, we know that they were doing this, against the regulations. And I have a lot of letters where they're talking back and forth from DEP and Lower Bucks Joint Municipal Authority. So if they're telling you one thing, I do have the documentation that says otherwise. So the damage is done. At this point, the damage is done, but we're still continuously breathing in this, and I don't want to use the word toxic because we don't know if it's toxic. It is hazardous because it is metal. It gets into your system. It gets into your throat. My throat's raspy now. I had to be out in my backyard today. My insurance companies are refusing to clean up anything, refusing to fix anything. So I had public adjuster out to my home today, took those steps. Got a contractor right over. I am a contractor, but I can't do my own stuff. He saw the metal that melted into my siding, melted into my roof, melted into my windows, destroyed my pool. I took my magnet, rolled it over whatever area he wanted. But not only do we have problems, but who owns the streets in Falls Township? Falls Township?
Well, that particular road's a state road. In terms of New Falls Road.
The drive.
Thornridge Drive is Township Road.
Okay. You guys have a problem as well. I rolled the magnet across Thornridge Drive. I picked up so much metal in that street. That metal blew as far as 2 houses across Thornridge Drive. Now, I haven't been over to Vermilion Hills yet with the magnet. I have had some people ask me, can you bring the magnet over, show us what's on our property. It's so small, but yet some of it's as large as larger than the size of a pen head. Okay, I've been collecting it and saving it. I'm not going to bring it in, and you guys stop the demolition for us, and we do appreciate that. At this point, we just want to see it taken down properly. But I don't want Lower Bucks County Joint Municipal Authority telling everybody that it's not toxic because they haven't proven that yet. Okay, DEP said they're not going to test it either because they're not seeing it leave the tower site. Okay, they told me you pay for it and have it tested. I called the lab that had the material analyzed. They didn't do the right analyzation that I wanted. They still have the sample. We're in the process of having that analyzed, okay? So, but at this point, we really need this stuff cleaned up. The toxicologist told me, do not allow your kids in the backyard, because if you have a present health issue like I have acid reflux, it agitated the acid reflux so much that it actually got into my kidney area. And I'm not saying that it won't come out, but you know, you go out there, you try to clean this stuff up, you're sick for 3 more days. It is, you know, which, you know, I miss work because of that. You know, it's, and my kids are so tired of hearing about this. You know, with all respect to them, I'm tired of talking about it. You know, rope off the area, just take it down, let more, you know, obviously we don't want to see more material dumped on the homes and the homes, metal melted into the homes and so forth. You know, the basic damage is done, and I don't mean to drag this out.
Mr. Harvey,
yeah.
Is it all right if I ask Mr. Mayor a
Sure.
question? Mr. Mayor, did you just say that you have a toxicologist who said that it's hazardous for your children to be breathing the dust that's on your property?
Yes.
Well, this would be significant information that we would want to bring to the judge's attention. So if you will give me the name and address of that toxicologist, I will make arrangements to meet and talk with him or her to get them to provide that information. And if we need to get them to have them sign an affidavit that we can then bring with us to the court, so that we can show the court that we have now a medical professional who is saying this is hazardous to the health of the children and it needs to be remediated immediately. So if you can get me the name and address of the toxicologist who told you that information, I will contact that person tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that would obviously help our, you know, I mean, in a situation, we're, you know, more than sympathetic to everything, and you know, none of this should have happened, as Mr. Clark said before, if, you know, Lower Bucks Joint and the contractors had done their job. But at this point, the issue is that our authority as a municipality is extremely limited. What we are doing essentially by going to the courts and number one, getting it stopped, was the first step. The second step we're going to be deciding probably, you know, well, later on this evening at this meeting is how long do we give Lower Bucks Joint to come up with these plans that we've already given them a long time to come up with, before we just say, forget about it, we're going to the next step right now because you're dragging your feet. But that is really, that's the limits of our power. We don't have the ability or the authority to go out and take down the tower ourselves. We can't go hire somebody to go do it. In terms of cleanup, obviously there's an issue with that, because if you go and clean it up, that means that Lower Bucks Joint's off the hook, and at that point it becomes harder to get them to maybe reimburse you or Mr. Kenner or anybody else. And so anything that, like Mr. Clark just said, anything that is going to make our case a little stronger when he goes to that judge, like the information regarding the toxicology, or if that other test that you had talked about, you know, getting, if that becomes done, whoever told you it was cadmium, if we can get that sort of information, that's all information we would really like to have. So as soon as you can get that to us, then
I can do that. I actually have the doctor's name with me, but I can provide that to you after the meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
And then any of the reports that you have from DEP, we'd also be happy to make copies of those, especially if DEP has been out to the site, and anything that they've done that will also aid our case as we're moving forward.
Yeah, that would be fine. I can actually email you the reports from DEP. I have a lot of information in my computer on this. I've been forwarding stuff to Senator McElhaney's office. There's a gentleman in there who's working with me, and he has a liaison in DEP that he's, you know, been trying to push on this. Unfortunately, they're telling me their budget cuts aren't allowing them to do certain things, but that's not you know, helping the situation.
Sure.
So yeah, any information that I had that could, you know, certainly help the process of this, you know, I'd be more than happy to give you anything.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I did have a list of concerns that I wanted to go over, but I think everything was covered.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Phil McAloon. Mr. May, don't forget your crutches.
Hi, I'm Phil McAloon. I'm in Falls Township. I'm part of the EAC. I'm here tonight to ask if we can get a fence for the community garden that we're planning on building in the community park. Working with Lieutenant Ward and the committee, consisting of members from the Shade Tree Commission and the EAC, we're looking at building a 120 by 100, 40 plots, 10 by 20 for the community garden. We have plans in here, if you'd like to see them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McElwain.
Thank you.
We would like to get the it done before the spring season, so residents will be able to plant their garden. Tentatively, we're planning on no charge, but a $25 refundable fee if the garden is cleaned up at the end of the growing season. We'll refund their money back. We're looking at putting this in the Phase 1 section past the soccer fields. As you probably know, we have a deer population down there, and if we did plant this garden, people's vegetables would be eaten probably before they even get on the vine. So we feel it's necessary to have a 6-foot chain link fence surrounding the garden.
Okay. You know, obviously we're familiar with the community garden and Lieutenant Ward's efforts with that. This is actually the first time we're hearing anything about a fence, and so we'll have to take a look at, you know, in terms of board members, what their thoughts are, and we'll take a look at the costs and things like that. But I mean, we're very supportive of the program overall.
I think you have to get us a price for the fence, right?
Yeah, we'd have to get, I mean, this is obviously a good start, but we'll ask Mr. Gray to work with Lieutenant Ward and try to put together some figures for us and some exact kind of ideas and things like that. So
Lieutenant Ward had a estimate done, I think, by Joe Aneo, and it was $4,500 for the fence.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
You mentioned a 6-foot chain link fence. You might want to research what is the best type of fencing for a garden for deer. I'm not sure 6 feet is the height you need. It may need to be higher, and I know they do make particular netting that'll go up higher, and it may actually be a lot cheaper than chain link. It'd be a pity to put in chain link and then find that they just go right over. So there are obviously a lot of folks have done research and have the right kind of netting, especially for deer fencing. So I'd encourage you to research that, and then if you had a particular price, I think that's what we want to look at, right?
Yeah, I think what we need, I mean, you know, we need something a little bit more.
Goose fence.
Yeah, a little bit more specific, but.
A goose fence.
Yeah. Jeffrey.
Find the eggs of the
deer eggs out there.
All right. Okay. But yeah, Mr. Gray, you can talk with Lieutenant Ward about this and try and nail down some details on this, and maybe like Mr. Snipes is saying, just make sure this is exactly what we need, and in terms of the height and everything else, type and everything else, and talk to Mr. Arneo too. Okay. But no, this will be, I appreciate you bringing it to us, and you know, this is something we're kind of excited about and seeing down there. Another good use for the park, for people that maybe don't have the kind of space where, depending on where they live, so they can now have a garden, you know, here in the Township Park, and they have access to it and grow whatever they want, flowers, vegetables, or whatever they want. So, but okay, we'll definitely take a look at this.
Okay, thank
All right?
you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to say that I do know some people that just put in a deer fence and had complete success, no deer damage at all. So I'll try to get that information and get it to Mr. McElwain.
Okay. All right. Chuck Rother?
Well, most of everything that I wanted to say has already been said about the tower.
Okay.
In Vermilion Hills, because I live within almost throwing distance of the tower. And what my concern was, why was this allowed to be started right from the beginning without proper controls in place? And second of all, they were decent when they stopped during the high winds so nobody would get hurt. but then all of a sudden they stopped. My thoughts was, if it's going to be exposed to the elements, which it already was demolished to a point where there was no more holding back, so to speak, they should have been allowed to continue taking it down. Another 2 days had been down.
Yeah, well, a lot of the concerns we have at the time was from neighbors like, people like you just heard, who didn't want any more work to continue, and like you said, the work they were doing was not necessarily done in the most...
Well, when they painted it, I did get damage to my van, which
Okay.
I was compensated for.
Right.
But like I said, this work didn't seem to affect us up in over where we're at, because the wind didn't carry it.
Right,
All
yeah.
being metallic.
Right. Yeah, it looked like it blew it all
As far
towards
as
Thornridge.
the fellow's concerns about his yard, I'm sure they're legitimate.
Yeah.
Because the metal is heavy and it's going to come down close to the tower.
Right. Yeah.
But like I say, I thought it would have been in the best interest of everybody just to continue taking it down. It had been gone.
Okay. All right.
Or now, maybe put some colorful canvases up there to camouflage it.
Bob Alexis?
Bob Alexis, Falls Township. A couple of weeks ago, somebody was probably watching television. It says Falls Township first in whatever. Why can't we put an ordinance in the township, just like Ben Salem did, with cell phones, laptop computers, and that type of stuff? We got some money will be coming in.
In terms of people driving, you mean with them?
Yes.
Okay. I know, talking with the chief of police, one of the things I guess we're waiting on, the state is supposed to be, we're discussing passing one, and whether or not they do it, and it's one of these things where,
I'm
they say
talking
they're gonna
about
do it.
Falls Township.
Well, I know, but
You
if
don't
a state
need the
law,
state.
if a state law comes in, it supersedes
Yeah,
ours.
the state
so-
will. My daughter got hit with a car.
Mhm.
The kid was on the cell phone. Almost got killed up there by Sesame Place. 80 degrees, beautiful weather. Like I said, she almost got killed. This is for Peter Gray. I want to ask you, I called you up in June about the Chandler's Field, what they're going to do with the dirt. Do you know what they did with that dirt up there?
At the Challenger Field?
No, yeah, the Challenger, the Continental League field, that handicap kids, that new field they made up there.
Mr. Sullivan, I guess with the site work that was done, was there any excess dirt that was removed from the site?
There wasn't very much. I don't recall. We weren't going to do anything but give it to the Public Works Department if they needed it. I don't think it was used for anything else.
Well, that's why I asked Peter. I said, we could use it up that park, because when that water is high, that wind blows up, it's just dragging the topsoil in there, and you got a lot of rough spots up there. And the other thing I asked you was, I said, we need a chain over where Wheat Chief and Penn Valley Road is. Joey Arnell's boys, I call them Joey Arnell's destroyers. They're ruining that park. You gotta go over there now with the snow and stuff. It's a shame. Nobody's taking care of the park, and he's one of them. They're coming in that way. That's a walkway. It says Falls Trail to go over to, what do you call, the trailer park in Old 13? Security's coming in there, because I've seen them. I don't know why they're coming in there. They ride over there. All they have to do is stop, let the people walk by. There's not a million people over there. You should see what they did. Why? I'm going to call this guy Mr. Clean. He's assigned to Parks and Recreation. He was here. He's a scoutmaster. When I seen that, I said, you got to be kidding me. This guy rides all over that park. Matter of fact, 4 years ago, Mr. Harvey, you were over and I was talking to you. Do you remember?
Yep.
And he was right behind you. And you could have said something to him or told the manager to tell him if you don't want to tell him. He's still doing it. Comes over my section, he can't get out of the truck and walk to look in a garbage can. That's all he does over there. He just ruining the place. Now, why Joey Arnell put blacktop over by that skating board thing, I'll never know. They're using that for a road now. Somebody used it Saturday, and the ground is all soft. They did a terrible job over there, snow plowing. I'll call him Mr. Clean again. I'm walking over there, 3/4 of the thing's dried already. We got a little, not even an inch. He's over there plowing it. We get 3-4 inches of snow. Where's he at? Who assigns him to that park? Does he work for Joy or no?
If we have 3 or 4, if we have a lot of snow, the park is the last priority. And so
Yeah,
he was,
I know you were gonna
he's-
say that. I know
so,
that.
So he's out plowing streets and other
No,
things.
no, he was not. He was over there picking up garbage, and the park wasn't even done. And here comes a truck with a plow on. He's not doing nothing. People want to walk. I mean, you're saying one thing and another. Matter of fact, my area, and I live in Vermilion Hills, it was a mess, this 12 inches of snow. We had more snow last year, and it was in better shape. I told you last year, I said, I got a gentleman on the end, 85 years old. The lady on the corner is the same thing. He goes down the thing, into the street, he turns around, he's pushing the snow where the handicap parking is on both sides, and the people walk there. Why? He don't know how to get rid of it. All he has to do is go around the next street and come around again, then turn around the opposite way. But he keeps pushing. Maybe you guys could come over, or Jory Arnell, and shovel it for the gentleman, because it just disappeared Friday for nice weather we had. Now, he was over there, instead of putting all the topsoil that they pushed out of there, I talked to quite a few people on there. They said, this is a mess. It is. You want to go over there tomorrow, any one of you, I'll take you for a tour. And the one lady, she's not here, Mrs. Kozlowski, the last time, she'd go. An 82-year-old lady. Why can't one of you guys go? Don't ride in the truck or the car. Take a walk around the park, and you'll see the damage. We got $7-8 million talking to that park. There's another thing. Yeah, I don't know if you know it. I was over there 2 weeks ago when it was pretty cold. There's two guys, I guess, on the lake drilling holes to go ice fishing. I didn't see any security guard.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, I know.
Mr. Alexis, we have security guards at the park all the time.
Well, if are they supposed to be at the park, or they are allowed to go somewhere?
No, they're at the park, and our Public Works Department does their best efforts to get the roads done and to get the parks done, and they try to get them done in an
I
expeditious
talked to people in North Park and Torrance. They said, how was your road? They told me the same thing. They were terrible.
It was
with the 12 inches of snow.
Had quite a bit of snow this year, and they did the best job.
They did a better job last year. And another thing on the end of the road, Jory and Olson, his boys over there, I see him up to 7-Eleven. Don't he ever check his people out what they do?
No, they are working.
Mr. Alexis, they're allowed to actually go on break and have dinner at times.
They do get breaks.
There's a sidewalk over there on Vine and Victoria for the kids on the other side to walk to Finsbury High School. Wasn't touched.
Okay.
They were down there in the front alongside of the drive. What's the excuse? Don't they know what to do, or don't he check up on them?
Okay.
I know you're going to stick up for him.
Well, yeah, I am.
I know
but
you
I
are.
also,
He's the best in Bucks, right?
And talking with people who drive through our township and live in other townships, they would love to live here.
Well, why did he move out of Falls Township then, about 4 years ago?
So I don't know.
You should ask him.
All right, Mr. Alexis, thank you very much.
Yeah, I know.
Mr. Harvey, if I may, also, Mr. Gillis, who works at the park, just like that, he does a hard job, does fine efforts down there as well, and does the best job he can.
Yeah, and obviously it's, well, okay. Thank you, Mr. Gray. Appreciate that. All right, those are all the names on the list. Is there any other public comment needed? Somebody else for public comment? No? Okay. Then we'll move on to the minutes. Item number 9, February 15th, 2011. Any comments or questions regarding the minutes?
No.
Mr. Sullivan or Mr. Sullivan, any comments from you?
No comments whatsoever, Mr. Harvey.
Okay. All right. Mr. Dents, nothing from you?
Nothing from me.
Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman. Excellent minutes once again.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I see. I don't see any.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no comments on the minutes.
All right, I don't either. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Executive session, we don't have a reason for an executive session. Manager comment, Mr. Gray?
Yes, just 2 items tonight. First item, I have a letter from Jesse Hill representing the Delaware Valley Vietnam veterans. They're requesting a donation for sponsorship for their upcoming event, the Flag Memorial Program. Last year, the township also made a donation. This item has been included in the Falls Township 2011 budget. At this time, the board is asked to consider making a donation to the Delaware Valley Vietnam.
Is there an amount?
$6,000.
Okay. All right, and it is standard.
Yes.
Yeah, the Flag Memorial is one of the programs we're very happy to have in our park, honored to have in our park every year. It's been here for 10 years, 12 years, something like. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah, and so it is around Flag Day, and it's a program every year to keep in our minds the memories of those people who gave their life for our country. And it's all volunteers, basically, who go out there and plant 60,000 flags or so in our township park and carry out a couple of different ceremonies throughout that weekend. Is there a motion to approve the $6,000 donation to the Delaware Valley Vietnam veterans for the Flag Memorial?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second the motion?
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
I have a letter from Robert Harmon representing Historic Fallsington. In a letter dated February 14th, he is requesting a financial contribution to support Historic Fallsington Day to be held on October 8th, 2011. This item has also been included in Falls Township 2011 budget in the amount of $6,000. They have also provided a budget for the board's consideration as well. At this time, the board is asked to consider this donation to
Okay.
Historic Fallsington.
All right. Again, another community event that gets a lot of attention and brings a lot of people into Falls Township, something we're very proud of. Is there a motion to approve the $6,000 donation to Historic Fallsington for Fallsington Day?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded?
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Okay. All right, we'll go to board comment. Mr. Snipes or Mr. Well, let's start with Mr. Dents maybe. I think we started Mr. Snipes last time.
I have no comment tonight.
No? Mr. Snipes?
I don't believe I do as well. Excellent meeting. I was glad to see the renovations moving forward for Eleanor Roosevelt School.
Mhm.
I think we had an important discussion involving the aftermath of the tank, and so I hope we'll be following up on that as quick as we can.
Okay.
And thank you for an excellent meeting, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I guess since you mentioned the tank, I guess we want to give our solicitors some direction. I think all of us are looking for some kind of, what kind of timeline to give Lower Bucks Joint to come up with this information they need to present to us. So we're looking for a plan to take down the tower safely, a plan to clean up, and what was there something else, Mr. Clark? I thought there were three things.
We just want to be able to confirm
the materials.
the material that's
Okay,
on the
that's
tank.
what
We want to plan for taking it down, and then we want to plan for cleaning it up. Again, I'll reiterate what I said before, with Mr. Major having a physician who is now an expert, who has now said that this is hazardous. That's clearly information that we need, and I'll be looking forward to receiving that information from Mr. Major in the next day or so.
Okay. How much time do we want to give? Do we give the end of this week for Lower Bucks Joint, or do we wait a longer period than that before we ask Mr. Clark to go back to the Court of Common Pleas and take another step?
I say we give them 24 hours. I mean, we've given them a lot of time. They've given them excuses. We're supposed to do it by Monday. It's Tuesday, still nothing. He called today, nothing.
Mr. Snipes, your thoughts?
Sooner the better.
Okay. All right, well then 24 hours sounds good. If you don't get anything from the solicitor from Lower Bucks Joint Municipal Authority, then Thursday morning you are given authority by the Board of Supervisors to take the next step at Court of Common Pleas. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Will do.
Okay. Let's see. Just to verify, you talked about renovations. Mr. Snipes reminded me with the Fallsington Library. Mr. Sullivan, we're pretty much, I think we're finished with that, right? The invisible, the visible storm windows are in. Is that correct?
Yes, everything on that project is complete, and they are in the maintenance period.
Okay. Yeah, and it's a great renovation that was done with lighting, shelving, windows, new steps, new doors. It's really, it was a great little library before, but it's even better now. And I know the people there are very, very happy with the renovations that were done. So if you haven't been there recently, or if you haven't never been there, then go ahead and stop by. And it is a library that's connected to the Bucks County Library System. And so if you are looking for a book that they don't necessarily have in that Fallsington library, they can actually get it from one of the other Bucks County libraries and have it brought to them, and they'll just call you when it comes in, and you just go pick it up. You don't even have to leave. You don't even have to go necessarily anywhere else. Levittown Library, of course, isn't that far away, but it's a great library, nice and small, a lot of good programs to keep an eye out for, especially in the summertime. So I'm glad to hear that. And just a reminder, finally, St. Patrick's Day Parade, the Bucks County St. Patrick's Day Parade, which starts at St. Joseph the Worker Church on New Falls Road and heads all the way down to Worcester Road in Bristol Township, is on the 12th of March, a couple weeks away, and hopefully have some good weather. And we encourage everybody to come on out, and even if you're not Irish, you're allowed to come out and at least pretend to be. It starts at 10:30, I think, on the 12th. So look forward to seeing everybody there. Thank all the professionals for their work tonight, as well as my fellow board members who are here. Thank you for your efforts as always, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?